views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Get fired up for Spirit Fire Radio, your guide to practical mindfulness and meditation. Join hosts Tim Darter and Steve Kramer and discover how to add the mechanics of meditation to your day. Watch yourself connecting in a whole new way and find the amazing moments in life's routines that often pass us by. Add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. Now here's your hosts, Tim Darter and Steve Kramer.
Hey, thank you for joining us today. I'm Steve Kramer.
And I'm Tim Darter, and today's show is all about yoga. It's a show we've been wanting to do for quite a while, and just through all of the retreats that we see going through Spirit Fire, a lot of them revolve around yoga, and we've sort of metamorphosis of how yoga is affecting its students. So today's guest is Jamie Villanueva, and she's a Boston area yoga instructor. We had the privilege of meeting her when she brought a retreat through the center last fall. Wonderful people we met.
Great retreat, yeah.
Got to christen the art barn. She describes her classes as offering a creative and intelligent flow that joins breath, alignment, and awareness as a welcoming and unintimidating concoction of challenge and calm through the use of Buddhist-inspired philosophy, breath work, and movement.
Indeed. I love that Jamie's description. I love that she has the words breath, alignment, and awareness. If you've been listening to Spirit Fire Radio, you know that we use those words almost every single show. So once again, so happy to have Jamie with us. Jamie, welcome.
Thank you guys. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so this week we are on the second step of the practice of living awareness. So, Jamie, you might not know this, but we really try to sort of bring individuals who kind of reflect a step of the practice as we meditate each week on a particular step of Spirit Fire's practice of living awareness. There's 14 steps. We're on step 2, which is tip of the nose. So it sounds kind of like, what? Yoga, tip of the nose? But actually, the tip of the nose is so much about where is our focus and the ways in which what's happening on our outside reflects what's happening on the inside. And we find a place to put our concentration and focus. We see the differences between the vibration of those two, where they meet, and how they can be joined. So focus, your focus is yoga, and it's so much about that. So, Jamie, I'd love to hear, just as we get started, a little bit about your yogic journey. You know, what brought you to yoga?
Yeah, so I think that I have a, somewhat of a standard kind of typical experience in what brought me there, which was totally random. I got dragged to a yoga studio by my older sister. And for those of you who are younger siblings, you know that might be a common thread in family dynamics. Yeah. So my sister took me to a yoga class. I dabbled in yoga before, but when she took me to kind of the studio that I most strongly resonated with, it had probably been 3 or 4 years before I'd been in a class, and showed up on that first day, went through the motions, went through all the different poses, and left somehow feeling better than when I walked in. And that struck me, and it resonated, and it resonated very hard. And it kept me going back time and time again after that. So since then, it stuck.
Nice. You know, I have to say that I was just doing a little bit of research, this week on yoga, and the NIH, the National Institute for Health, they actually look at yoga as complementary medicine. They look at it as sort of alternatives to well-being. And so I think it's that experience that a lot of people have of leaving the yoga studio and actually feeling better in a really kind of full way that has a lot of people signing up. In fact, in doing that research, I stumbled upon these numbers that 10% of all Americans do yoga. That's pretty big. 1 in 10 people in this country do yoga, and that's double the number from a decade ago. So as Tim was saying, we just see so many people come into the center, and they yoga is a part of their life in some way. More than half probably of the retreats that come through our center about yoga. So you must be seeing that as well, and noticing that shift in people in your classes, yeah?
Certainly. And I think what's also just even noticeable over the last maybe 5 years or so is the diversification. And I think that yoga started off, especially in the States, maybe in the last 15 years, as a pretty female-dominated field. And what I'm noticing now, even in classes, is it'll be the norm to have almost 50% male, female, all different types of socioeconomic and all sorts of diversification in the classrooms, which I think is really, really nice, which also shows a pretty strong indication that it is becoming more and more accessible. And it's also becoming this point of entry into something a little bit greater and a little bit deeper, and leaving people with a feeling that, they can't find elsewhere.
Totally. I love that you say that, a little bit deeper. And just a little side note, in all this research, I found out that Lululemon is now having male-only stores. So you go, that says something when Lululemon's got, they've got Lululemon male. But, I would have to say that, Tim and I being two guys who both have had a gym history, I know that I was a workout freak. I mean, I went to the gym through my 20s and early 30s nonstop, and I can tell you why. I wanted to look better naked. I wanted to look good. It was really so much about my appearance. I felt great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I had a lot of, there were I had a lot of energy. It cleared my mind. It really relaxed me because I was sort of letting a lot of energy out when I was at the gym. But at the end of the day, so much of it was really about my ego and about my appearance. And it wasn't until I became more spiritual, I wanted something deeper, I wanted a little more, that I entered the yoga class from the gym. I went to the yoga class in the gym and I went, oh, this is interesting. And back then I was the only guy in the class. And so I think for a lot of, I'm being very sexist in saying this, but for a lot of men, that journey toward sort of not, and it's not to say that women don't have that as well, but this sort of wanting to look good and what's my appearance about, and how do I, my musculature. What I noticed in yoga was that actually what it was asking me to do was the antithesis of what I was doing in the gym, which was in the gym, I was sort of breaking my muscles down and building them up. I was contracting them and condensing them and making them smaller and more profound. Whereas in yoga, I was stretching them out. I was elongating. I was giving them space. And for a while, that really messed with my head. Like, wait a minute, I'm doing all this work to build up my muscles, and now I'm actually straightening them out. I don't want to do that. So it told me a lot about myself. And in the fact that I was looking at that said, wow, Steve, you really are going to the gym for the wrong reasons. So I'm sure you must be seeing that as well, or you must have at least just a couple words to say about that. They sort of are different, very different sort of ways of working out.
Certainly. And I think that what that oftentimes I think is the general thought of what a yoga class is going to be. Oh, it's a lot of laying around, stretching, and as maybe somebody who has more energy that they need to burn, it's almost a deterrent that they want the experience that gives them those nice defined, very, rock hard biceps or rock hard abdomen. But what you start to get in the practice, and I think this is something that oftentimes, even after that first experience in a yoga class that people start to experience, is it's more of a functional movement-based strength that you start to gain. So in terms of like the health that we get from a functional standpoint, what you can get in the practice, this idea of kind of longer, lengthened, more stable muscles, more protected joints, it kind of provides this foundation for long-term health, which from a very traditional standpoint, when you look at the mixture of the asanas, the movements of the yoga practice mixed in with the meditation, the spirituality, is that's the whole point of it. And so we want to do these things to our body so that we can maintain long-term health, so that we can continue to practice on the spiritual journey. So, if the point of entry is the gym for most people, I think that it's a great segue. They might get a certain experience while they're on the treadmill or while they're lifting weights, that then they can complement with a more functional type of strength and health that they can get in the yoga class that might be upstairs.
Sustainability is what I'm hearing too. I love that word. And we talk about that a lot in meditation. We talk about that just through focus and through concentration of can you sustain a state of peace? But I love that, what I love about yoga is it comes back time and time again to the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. And how do we sustain that? That the physical body is very much a part of it. How do we create a workout program or an exercise program or just a program of movement that actually will sustain that, not only sustain our physical body, but sustain integration of all of those, as you say, to deepen a spiritual practice. And we're going to go to a break in a minute, but I really want to go into that when we get back. I know when we talked Jamie and I had a wonderful conversation, before we started the show. We just talked for an hour and a half, and I thought, oh, this is so juicy. I love it so much. And, you said that really yoga is about creating space so that one can find their way into their spiritual practice, creating space either meditatively or just space to observe oneself. So I look forward to talking to you about that idea of creating space. So we're going to do that when we come back on Spirit Fire Radio.
Stranger in the black sedan, won't you hop inside my car? I got pictures, got candy, I'm a lovable man, and I can take you to the nearest star.
Transformation Talk Radio is dedicated to the education and awareness of Lyme disease.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Lyme Talk Radio. I'm Dr. Pat, joined here by Dr. Nusheen Darvish.
Dr. Pat Basili and Dr. Nusheen Darvish will be bringing the most innovative, groundbreaking information, research, treatment innovations, and stories from those it affects every day.
I'm so excited to be talking about this. We have so much to share. Dr. Darvish and I are planning to do is connect the dots.
People suffering with all sorts of chronic diseases, it's time. It is time for them to transform.
Tune into Lyme Talk Radio and help keep our mission strong.
For the loyal listeners out there that have been listening to this incredible show on Lyme disease, we are not going to let you down. We're going to come through stronger and enrich the platform for Lyme disease awareness through Lyme Talk Radio. The message will continue, the conversations will become stronger, and the healing epic.
Hi, I'm Tim Darter.
And I'm Steve Kramer.
Join us on Spirit Fire Radio. Discover how to add the mechanics of meditation to your day.
And watch yourself connect in a whole new way. Find the amazing moments in life's routines that often pass us by. Add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio.
Tune in each Wednesday at 9 a.m. for your weekly guide to practical mindfulness. And to learn more, visit www.spiritfireradio.com.
Radio. Find Your Shine with Kelly is the show that celebrates what makes you, you. Join co-hosts Kelly Wadler and Dr. Pat Basili as they break down how to brilliantly fuel and move your body and love what makes you shine. Kelly is a professional arts and wellness coach dedicated to helping brilliant women find their confidence, energy, self-love, and shine. Tune in to Shine On Radio with Kelly and find your shine on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Tune in to the Jen Royster Show, intuitive guidance to inspire your life, each Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This amazing show is an inspirational hour that will take you on an epic metaphysical journey to discover the spiritual approach to life's greatest challenges. Dr. Jen is an internationally known intuitive counselor, spiritual teacher, and energy healer. Call in for intuitive readings and visit JenRoyster.com for more information.
Get into it for 2016. Do you want more prosperity, clarity, energy, and balance in your life? Join Lynn Brown now through March for one of her amazing workshops, each focusing on a key part of living your best life. For more information and to register for one of these amazing workshops, visit lynnbrownevent.com. That's lynnbrownevent.com. And get into it this 2016 with Lynn Brown.
1230 WBLQ. If never I met you, I never have seen.
Welcome back to Spirit Fire Radio. Today we're talking about yoga.
Yes.
With our guest, Jamie.
Jamie, Villanueva, she came to Spirit Fire last fall, and Tim and I were so blessed to be able to sit in our meditations, and I had one of the best meditations of the year with her. So great. And so welcome back, Jamie. We've been talking about yoga. I just want to read to the listeners in case they just came in. You know, you say that when people come to your classes, they can expect a welcoming and unintimidating concoction of challenge and calm through the use of Buddhist-inspired philosophy, breathwork, and movement. So, you know, just the fact that you have the word Buddhist in there made us go, whoa, yay, hooray. So, you know, through meditation, the practice of living awareness, which is Spirit Fire's meditation practice, is Buddhist inspired as well. And what we love so much about our live meditations, we do full moon meditations. The practice is live all week and open to anyone, free, and that's group. What I notice is when you are meditating alone, there is quite a difference between meditating alone and meditating in a group. The group field is palpable. You bring your vibration, your energy to the group, and there are times that you can sense that is your focus, that's the vibration you're resting in, and there are times that you can sense that you're resting in the vibration of the group. And so that sort of parallels what we were saying about this sort of idea of the gym and working out, you know, this idea of working out to sort of break the muscles down and sort of build the muscles up is one thing. It's very individual. It's in a way, it's for the self, you know. And in the gym, it seems to be unless you've got a workout partner, even when you do, it's very much me and how much can I lift. When you move into the yoga class, it's a very different vibration. And right away, the first thing you're hit with is this is about the class. This is about being led as a group through an experience and that group vibration. And you watch all that sort of, if I can say, ego fall away. So group is really important. And I know you have a few things to say about that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing. And sometimes as the teacher, I have a unique and also amazing vantage point to start to see the group dynamic at work. When I teach, I often will stand in the back of the room and just kind of observe what's happening as the collective whole starts to begin to move. And what's so incredible is that you get to watch as, you know, individual people on these little rectangular squishy pads in their stretchy pants are starting to move. And, you know, they might come in as individuals, but when you share a rich experience, it's something that starts to break down those walls. And it's the walls of the ego. It's the walls of just our individual lives. It's our, you know, head down in our iPhone kind of walls that we don't mean to build up necessarily, but start to exist. So when you come into a group practice, when you come into a studio of any sort or a room where you're going to be practicing yoga with other people, you start to see that dissolve. And it's pretty amazing as you watch shoulders kind of float down your back away from your ears. And there's the kind of physical, more tangible expression of it. But then you also see that deeper level expression of it too, where you start to be elevated by all the other energy that's within that very room and inspired by the things that are happening around you.
Nice. And, you know, are we not essentially all group? I mean, when you think of anything Buddhist inspired or you think of anything spiritually inspired, until we learn to really break down the walls of the individual and learn to function as a group. I mean, I'm talking within our society, within culture, within a family, within any situation. It's when we actually learn to move as a group that we start to see it's like you're cooking with gas then, you know?
Well, and I think it leads to a richer experience. And, you know, this is something I have experienced again in the practice many times over, but now, you know, science is starting to back it up too. But when we start to act for or in the interest of other people, the whole world begins to open up. And we really elevate our own personal levels of happiness by starting to put someone else in front of ourselves. And you can see that in the class happening too, which is pretty beautiful.
Indeed. You know, I actually studied with, I did Sivananda yoga when I was living in New York City for many, many years. It was my solace. Every class was basically solace. And what was so wonderful, which New York can be a very personality-driven city, you know, it's really like, go. What do I need and how am I going to get it? And it's wonderful in that way. You know, we're all individuals, and it's not ever in this conversation to take away from that. But there was something about the class. Usually in Sivananda, we would close our eyes. You knew the 12 asanas. They were the same asanas for every class. And you closed your eyes. And for me, this idea that I was like really just basically functioning, knowing that the whole group was moving through these asanas, and I could really focus inward, but yet stay somewhat connected to the movement of the field within the room. It was this wonderful inner and outer. So, when you say an unintimidating concoction of challenge and calm, there's a lot of that point of the twos, sort of how do we find our way through, how can challenge be calming, and how can calm create a challenge? There's a lot of that inner, outer, where's the balance and where do those meet, and where am I finding resistance? How can I bring ease to resistance? So much of that is a part of yoga, right?
Absolutely. And I think what's also beautiful too is among that, like, thinking of ourselves as a little thread that then gets woven into a much larger fabric. By no means is the thread less important. It's a critical part of the larger fabric that's being woven, but in some ways that provides the level of support to our challenge. So if we start to challenge ourselves physically in the different asanas or in the environment, in whatever capacity that might look like for our own limitations or our own strengths, we're then supported by all that exists around us. So looking over and seeing someone who has, some, similar or different type of body or strength that's moving it in a certain way can be very inspiring. And it can be, again, that little thread that's tied right onto our little thread and helps elevate the whole group experience.
Inspiring. It can be inspiration, indeed. Yeah. There's so many of those inner outer moments that happen within yoga and also within meditation. It's what gets me sort of so excited about all this. There was a quote I said that if there's something we have to conceal, we cannot meditate. It was a quote that I had about meditation, and I realized that is sort of an interesting aspect of yoga too, that as we create space, it reveals where it is that we're stuck, where it is that we're held up. We find these points of resistance, and it's when you hit a point of resistance that you need to breathe, that you need to find your alignment, you need to relax on yourself. And it's this, there's a lot of observation that goes on, a lot of self-observation in a yoga practice. Yeah.
And that delicate dance of the inner and the outer, exactly, to that point, because when you're up against this, obstacle, whatever it might be, you can have, the biggest, strongest, bulkiest muscles that exist. And when you ask your body to move in a way that it's not necessarily familiar with moving, you might come up against a point of resistance. And you kind of go through these very natural stages. And then sometimes as the instructor, you get to actually see what's happening on the inside as someone comes up against these struggles, thinking, why is it that my body might not be able to move like that? And then working through and realizing that certain things are way more accessible when we give ourselves time. It might be years to get some part of our muscles to open up for us, but you come up against these obstacles that there are really beautiful ways to start to work through them, whether or not they have anything to do with what happens physically. Maybe we stay where we are, but we create a new mental relationship to what's happening within the body too.
Well, and how many people do we have in our lives that we feel resistance from or toward? And sure, we can push the resistance further. We can add force to that, and we can keep bumping up against it. But it's only until we sort of decide to come at that person or that situation with a little bit of space, with a little bit of breath, with a little bit of ease, that really the magic starts to happen. I mean, that's what's incredible about yoga. We know our bodies. And within that moment on the mat, and you find the resistance further and the pain gets worse, you have to try all these very subtle little variations around that to say, well, do I need to go further? What if I just look at the resistance here? What if I just work with it in very small, very subtle ways? Is there a way for me to find out what's actually happening here and what's my relationship to it just beyond the resistance? Is it emotional? Is it mental? And we can apply that in so many ways to our lives. It's what I think is so magical.
And I think when you mentioned, the eyes closing as well. And I think that's definitely something that I encourage in my classroom, and that I know I practice my own self, both, in the meditative practice and the asana practice. But this idea too is sometimes when we close our eyes, it takes away the element of it needing to be the physical manifestation of that blockage actually going away too. Because in your own mind, once you've kind of, leapt over the hurdle, it might feel monumental, which is amazing and is a very cool experience. And then in the physical world, the person sitting next to you might not have noticed that you moved what felt like feet within your own body, but might have been a matter of, tiny little micro centimeters or something.
Right. And I even think in saying that as I remember, just going to the gym, so much of the experience was being surrounded by mirrors. Not that there's not mirrors in a yoga class, so that you can really stay tuned to your alignment, but it's a very different experience of what do I look like. And the eyes, the eyes are so important. You said earlier about our eyes turned down to our iPhones, which we do all the time. And, there's a saying within esotericism that is the eyes turned upward to the soul and the eyes turned downward to the personality. And I even think during meditation, when we're trying to create space in our mind and we're trying to create light of mind, there's this exercise you can do, and I'm sure you've used it in yoga, where your eyelids are closed and your eyes are relaxed. And if you gently raise your eyes up, it actually brings light into the cave of the head. And that can be very useful in meditation. So many parallels, so much about the eyes. So when we get back, we're going to go to a break. Jamie, when we get back, I want to talk a little bit more about the 8 limbs of yoga. So exciting when we get back. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Tune in to The Jen Royster Show, intuitive guidance to inspire your life. Each Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This amazing show is an inspirational hour that will take you on an epic metaphysical journey to discover the spiritual approach to life's greatest challenges. Dr. Jen is an internationally known intuitive counselor, spiritual teacher, and energy healer. Call in for intuitive readings and visit JenRoyster.com for more information.
Have you been seeing numbers like 111 and 222 everywhere you go? Do you feel that the universe may be trying to get your attention, perhaps offering a message of some sort? As it turns out, numerical patterns and certain types of geometry form the very fabric of our reality, from cells under a microscope to the astronomy of our night sky. At Stellar Reflections, we offer special sessions which tap into these patterns, designed specifically to support you on your journey. The 111 and 222 activations are sessions activating new patterns in your energy field, which in turn can help you create new patterns in your life. After just one session with a practitioner, either in person or via distance, clients report gaining greater clarity, becoming more intuitive, and honoring their inner truth as they move forward in their lives. Curious about what these transformational sessions might do for you? Call 425-999-9836 or visit StellarReflections.com. That's StellarReflections.com.
The life you're dreaming of is waiting for you to say yes. Together, we can create a powerful, love-centered world where business is not a competition, but a community of highly conscious individuals making a positive impact in their own lives and the lives of others. Fun, flexible, fabulous. You make the rules. We offer the tools. Connect with Shelley today to learn more at Live, Love, Earn with Shelley. That's SHELLEY.com.
Francine Vale is a being of light. She believes that all people of planet Earth are as well. As co-host of the Angel Healer radio show, Francine teaches you heart-centered ways to manifest healing on your own behalf and how to integrate love more fully into your daily life. Connect with your angels as you find your life flowing with ease and harmony. Walk the path of light with Francine and Dr. Pat Basili every month on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Introducing the Lucid Planet, a digital gathering place featuring cutting-edge, high-vibrational content that will empower and inspire you to become the greatest version of yourself. Visit the Lucid Planet today to stimulate your mind, body, and soul as you connect with a global community of like-minded people. The Lucid Planet is edited by renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly Neff, who is here to help you cope with anxiety, connect to your higher purpose, uncover your true passions, and live your dreams. Dr. Kelly's fresh, compassionate perspective emphasizes growth, transformation, healing, and thriving, even in the face of adversity. Say goodbye to bad news and low vibrational media for good and become part of the larger collective of people working together to navigate the global shift of consciousness and transform the world from within. Join the planet, the Lucid Planet. Visit thelucidplanet.com. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Spirit Fire Radio. We are so happy to have Jamie Villanueva on with us. We've been talking about yoga, and Tim and I noticed so much at Spirit Fire Retreat Center that the classes that come through the center that are involved in yoga, so many of the practitioners around the dinner table, Tim and I are the chefs at the center, so the dining room is open to the
eavesdrop.
Yeah, to the kitchen. So we're always eavesdropping on conversation, and they all get to know us very well in the kitchen, coming in to talk to us. And what we're noticing is so many people are looking for a deeper interpretation of yoga. They're really looking to sort of eke out the spiritual messages behind the asanas, behind yoga. We're finding that in meditation as well. We see people come with a mindfulness practice. So important for all of be mindful within our lives and within a yoga practice. But there are deeper aspects to a mindfulness practice. There can be deeper spiritual implications. And we are noticing people wanting to go a little bit deeper, which is why we're so happy to have Jamie here, because she really incorporates that into both her retreats and into her practice, into her yoga practice. So much of the conversation was about yoga as a lifestyle. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that from you, Jamie. So, yoga is a way of life. People come in and it's a part of their health and exercise regime, but they learn to make it a part of their life. In thinking about actions, about what's the intention behind an action, am I living with this awareness? Am I taking it off the mat? Are you finding that, and is that part of your sort of inspiration as an instructor?
Certainly, and I think it was very much a part of my own personal experience, which is why it's something that I start to incorporate as I'm teaching in the things that I'm starting to see in the classroom. And it's pretty beautiful, because what you see is, whatever the point of entry might be for a student, whether they, came to their first class because their partner asked them to come with them, or, family member, a sibling, their doctor, sometimes in some instances, recommended that they start try a yoga practice. But what starts to happen, especially with those that it begins to resonate or kind of when that sticky factor starts to exist for somebody, is they start to ask the questions. And for some reason, when they're in that setting, when they're practicing their yoga practice, things start to happen. They start to feel a little bit better. Something that was maybe bothering them prior to walking into the studio no longer seems quite so insurmountable. And what's beautiful is to start to watch that the time before you walk into the practice and the time that you're practicing and then the time that you leave before you go back to the daily grind starts to get to expand out. And I think that it's in that space where people start to take this kind of bigger leap, this more intricate kind of dive into what the practice is and why are these sorts of things happening. And it's pretty amazing that it might start, after you leave the yoga practice for 15 minutes, perhaps, on your drive home, you still are kind of carrying that vibration of the peace or the calm or the spirituality that you found in your practice. And then over time, that 15 minutes moves to the whole hour after your practice, or, the whole evening after you get home from your yoga class. And it's something that I see more and more as students come back and keep coming to classes and keep being a part of the yoga experience, whether that's on their living room floor or, doing videos at home or coming to a collective class.
And yeah, they're looking for that awareness. When you say calm, I'm also hearing they're looking for a connection and a sense of interconnectedness. that certainly happens when you have that, when you start to find that point of integration between outer and inner. You really realize, oh my goodness, I am actually a part of something really big. And it's not just group, it's not just physical, it's actually emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual. And it comes right back to yoga, meaning union. It's the name, it's actually the translation from the Sanskrit. So the what I find interesting about both you and I, as I am a teacher of the practice of living awareness, and you teach yoga, and most people would think that means you teach poses, is that actually within yoga, we've got the 8 limbs of yoga. And so asana, meaning posture, which someone would sort of assume is what a yoga teacher does. They teach asana. And meditation are both one of the 8 limbs. Well, not both. They are 2 of the 8 limbs of yoga. So we both actually teach within the greater umbrella of that which would be known as the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. That would be where a lot of people would find that. But the 8 limbs of yoga. So it'd be kind of fun for us to go through those quickly. I'm sure you have a few things to say about it. I know I have a few things to say about it. But we've talked a bit about asana. That is one of the limbs of yoga, and it's posture. It's one of the steps of the practice. And really, we're asking people within meditation, are you able to align the lower mind with the higher mind? Are you able to get to the abstract mind? Are you able to get to the levels of intuition? But are you also in alignment in your relationships? Are you in alignment with your life? Is your true sense of yourself in alignment with all you say, all you do? And I'm sure that is a part of your teachings as well, yeah?
Absolutely. And I think that it's what starts to happen in the practice is we build this familiarity, right? We start to get more comfortable with how we're moving our body, or being in a room that's maybe a little quieter than we're used to, or perhaps even moving at a pace that that's a little slower than we're accustomed to in our daily life. And what happens is when we start to do this time and time again, we're building essentially a familiarity with it. We're becoming more comfortable with something that perhaps even, just a few short months or a few short years ago felt very uncomfortable. And the more that we start to build that familiarity with it, then it expands out, and all of a sudden it has, much less to do with the hour that we might spend in a class or the hour that we might spend in a meditation, and much more about how we're living the rest of the day and those other 23 hours that we're spending, because you can't really turn it off, because then all of a sudden it's your familiarity with a certain feeling or a certain pace, and then it feels awkward to be in that other situation where things are going a little too fast or getting a little too hectic. And it's just that familiarity that we start to build that takes it from, how I spend 1 hour to a lifestyle, to how you're choosing to live every single day.
Right. And trying to sort of match that asana with a living asana, and noticing when you're out of alignment is wonderful, a wonderful practice. So another one is concentration. I'm stumbling because I want to say the word, my Sanskrit isn't great, dharana, which is concentration. And that's such an important aspect of both meditation and yoga. We think of a concentration as a force. You concentrate water in a dam and it turns into power. You concentrate light into a laser beam and it can cut through metal. So concentration is very important. And knowing when to be focused, when to concentrate, and when to ease up. Wondering if just a few words on that.
Oh yeah, I think concentration is something that you see in so many different facets, especially if you're looking just at the physical movements of the body. But if the mind is running 1,000,000 miles an hour and you're scattering from your grocery list to what time the kids need to be picked up from school, and you're trying to stand on one foot with your leg up in the air, it's probably going to be a pretty big challenge. And so what you start to see is when we begin to harness exactly what you just mentioned, this power of concentration, then all these things that seemingly were inaccessible start to become a little bit more accessible. And if the first segue into that might be learning how to stand on one foot, then you start to be able to use those tools that you collected maybe in tree pose or, a certain standing balance in the, physical realm of the asana poses. And you'll be able to harness that into other areas where, maybe it's a little bit easier to have a conversation with somebody if you stay focused on what that person is saying instead of thinking of the grocery list or the to-do list and the things like that.
Absolutely. Knowing where to put your focus. I find if you're only in certain poses, if you're only focusing on the pain and you say, wow, why is my concentration here on the pain? Let's move my concentration to the breath and allow my breath to ease me through the pain. Or maybe it's just on actually my mind. Let's look at where my mind is going. So concentration is such an interesting thing. It's where do we concentrate our focus? And it's the where part of where is my focus, and especially in life, as you say, in a situation, someone cuts you off in your car. Am I really going to focus on the fact that I got cut off, and that person is is a bleep, bleep, bleep for doing it? Or can I just, can I expand that out to, well, is it a big deal? Where's my focus on this situation? We teach people to do that all the time. What am I concentrating on? So kind of two different takes on ways we use concentration and what it actually is. Dhyana is yet another limb of yoga, and that is meditation. So you've said before that so much of creating space within the body. Originally, historically, the yoga asanas in the physical realm were to allow people to sit for longer periods of time in meditation, and that physical aspect was really a big part of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that what it also stems from too is just starting to build that familiarity. For some people, they find meditation in running, and they find it moving. They find it in the gym setting, like we were talking about earlier. But that's kind of part of what we start to accomplish as we're moving through with this concentration. It's the groundwork for our meditation
and for our ways that we can be mindful with our life. So a couple more of the limbs and a little more talk about yoga. We're going to go to a break. We'll be right back.
Holistic Medical Center is where you find it all. A healthy space with doctors who care, see, and listen to the whole you. Hi, this is Dr. Darvish. If you have not found an answer to your chronic symptoms, you will find answers here at Holistic Medical Center. Our doctors find the root cause of your symptoms and guide your body towards healing naturally. We transform lives from within. Visit drdarvish.com or call 425-451-0404.
Song of the Heart, Walking the Path of Light, from author and healer Francine Vale, is available now. Through Francine's life story, we learn how imperative it is to love one another. Once this simple truth is learned, peace on earth will prevail. Song of the Heart is a life lived and a story told for this purpose. To learn more about Francine and her amazing gifts, or to order your copy of the book today, visit angelsandlightbeings.com.
Hi, I'm Tim Darter.
And I'm Steve Kramer.
Join us on Spirit Fire Radio. Discover how to add the mechanics of meditation to your day.
And watch yourself connect in a whole new way. Find the amazing moments in life's routines that often pass us by. Add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio.
Tune in each Wednesday at 9 a.m. for your weekly guide to practical mindfulness. And to learn more, visit www.spiritfireradio.com.
Are you ready for a radical shift in your way of being? Are you seeking a more deeply connected and fulfilling life? Awakened Living Radio is a show dedicated to helping you embrace a life filled with profound peace, connection, and happiness. TJ Woodward is passionate about helping you find your clarity, balance, and purpose. Join co-host TJ Woodward and Dr. Pat Basili on the first Monday of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific Time for Awakened Living Radio on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Enlightening, humorous, and compassionate. Listen live to The Kelly Ballard Show. Insight and inspiration from the great beyond. Kelly is a fourth-generation medium and intuitive who covers topics ranging from grief, spirit guides, and listening to your intuition. Kelly can help you get answers and guidance from the other side with a little bit of humor and a lot of healing. Tune in to The Kelly Ballard Show, Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific Time here on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Have you everyone, this is Dr. Pat. The ancient Inca root vegetable maca is world-renowned for its wide array of health benefits. As a family-run company of true maca specialists, the maca team's mission is to provide you with fresh, organic, premium quality maca powders at a fair price. Amazing. All of the products are always organically grown, fair-traded, GMO-free, fresh, and potent. So don't take my word for it. Experience the life-changing benefits of maca today. Visit themacateam.com.
1230 WPLQ. A Monday warrior, mean stride. Today's Tom Sawyer, mean pride.
Welcome back to Spirit Fire Radio, where today we're talking about yoga.
It's been great. We've been talking about the limbs of yoga, and hearing Tom Sawyer talk about his mean pride. And it makes me think of Yama. It makes me think of ethics. So, Yama, we actually, I'm just going to go back a sec. I was thinking this right before we started this segment is, Tim and I, our inspiration of doing Spirit Fire Radio from the get-go is Spirit Fire Retreat Center is just a revolving door of people who are putting, they're walking their walk and they're talking their talk. They teach their classes, and we see that they are expressions of awareness in life. And we thought, wouldn't it be amazing to bring some of these people on our show and just find out, the very ways in which they becoming living expressions of awareness. So, Jamie, just thank you for all you do. And I know you touch so many people's lives. I know so many people's lives are brighter. They are sort of vibrating at a higher frequency as a result of all you do. And so just that's great. And we're so happy you're with us, and keep it up.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
So Yama, Yama is the first limb of yoga. We've been talking about the 8 limbs of yoga just very lightly because it really talks about yoga as a lifestyle, these 8 limbs, in which meditation is one limb, asanas, which we would in America today think of as yoga. But really it's a greater umbrella. And I know both Jamie, myself, and Tim, we see that umbrella and the ways that we're all trying to sort of bring more light into the world, trying to enlighten those around us. And Yama is really about ethics. So these 5 Yamas are nonviolence, truthfulness, non-stealing, control or continence, non-covetedness. So these 5 Yamas are sort of ways in which we can lead a life that will bring about alignment. And did you find that those factor into any of your teachings in class, Jamie?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I think it's a beautiful, living example. We start to get familiar with these qualities that, on a basic human level, this is how we want to conduct ourselves. And we feel better when we're living within ethical means. And, sometimes for whatever various reasons, we get a little bit off track. But being able to draw ourselves back, knowing that there are these principles that, tried and true have kind of shown to us to help us lead to a happier existence, definitely weave themselves into the fabric of the yoga classes that you might experience out there. And in some ways you can start to look at them kind of, again, getting back to this idea of internal and external to your own self, so finding a compassion for ourselves on our mat and where our bodies might be, non-harming, knowing when we're going through an asana to where to stop or where our limits might be, kind of as that internal non-harming first, and learning it on ourselves, and then being able to take it out there in the world and, maybe not slinging mud or gossiping about somebody later on. So it's really beautiful that you start to experience it maybe in the class in a way that's very relatable to the self, but then it translates on a bigger scale to something that you might experience once you walk out the door.
I love you. That's just beautiful, and it's yoga and meditation both train us to be observers. It's to observe ourselves. And once we can observe ourselves, we can start to observe our relationship to the world around us. And until we do that, we just don't have an end to asking ourselves those questions. You've said that more than once in this conversation. It allows people to ask the questions. So, am I being harmful to myself? Within my healing practice, I'm saying that to people all the time. Ask yourself, are you being kind to yourself? Is this done in kindness? And if we can hit on the yoga mat a point of resistance and find a way to be kind within that, we are set. We're set. And pranayama, that is yet another limb of yoga, and it factors so heavily into meditation. It factors so heavily into yoga, which is the breath. So important. I'm not going to go deep into any of these because we're coming towards the end of the show, and I certainly want Jamie to talk a little bit about what's coming up for her. But the last one is niyama, which is sacredness and reverence. There are niyamas. There are 5 of them: cleanliness, contentment, spiritual austerities, study, sort of a study not only of scriptures but of oneself, and sort of surrender. So we all can sort of put those together and what that means. We talk quite about on this show about reverence, about being able to pause for a moment and just take stock and have reverence. I know there's a point at the end of a yoga class really where I know you do it as well, where often there's prayer, often there's a mantra, often there's a time to give thanks for the class, thanks for the practice. Yeah?
Absolutely. And I think that the reverence piece is huge, and it's something that we don't often carve out. And I, in my upbringing prior to finding my way to this practice, it wasn't something that I necessarily spent much time considering or even thinking about. But the more that we start to bring in this little point of reverence, the more familiar again we get with it, and the more it starts to just manifest over and over again. And it gets at this point of like, how are we viewing ourselves, and how are we viewing, and how is that lens that we start to view ourselves, and how does it translate to the greater world? I was speaking with a friend the other day, and we were talking about, if you're sitting in a yoga class next to your best friend, your, thoughts or your words of encouragement to them would probably be incredibly positive. And, you'd be sitting there mentally telling them that they're doing a fantastic job. And wow, that's so cool that you moved your body in this way. And it was so graceful and beautiful. But then why, when we're looking at our own movements or our own practices, our own self, we're often not a very good friend. And this idea of finding that piece of reverence to end our practice, to then start our practice the next time, and to cultivate it, starts to make us almost better friends to ourselves.
Sacredness. I'm hearing sacredness. This just finding that way to be sacred with ourselves, sacred with our actions from one across from us. So, sacred space. Let's talk about that we have a few more minutes. We have a couple minutes before we have to go. You have a retreat coming up at Spirit Fire. I can't believe we didn't even talk about it before now. Tell us a minute about what you're going to do. We're so excited to have you back, and I'm going to sit in on all your.
I'm so excited to be coming back. So I will be there in the end of April, and it's going to be kind of a new concept for me. I've done different various retreats, but this one is going to be a mother-daughter specific retreat, and I'm very excited. My mother lives in California. She's going to be coming out for the retreat, and the kind of catalyst for it was really that I'm seeing this almost need that somebody, whether it be the mother wanting their daughter to start to experience some degree of the practice, but not knowing that point of entry, or, daughters thinking that the yoga practice might be really beneficial for their mom, but then for whatever reason, maybe that person doesn't feel comfortable coming to a class. So the idea being, we're going to meet at Spirit Fire, we're going to spend the weekend together, and everybody will learn kind of how to modify, to work with the yoga practice that might work for whatever stage of life they're in.
How beautiful. Wow, mother-daughter. And we're going to serve up some serious Mother Earth for you all. So
can't wait, the food.
Every level of motherdom and nurturing going on. So it's just been great, Jamie. Thank you so much. And I have a feeling I'm going to really pull you by the ear to come back on the show again. And just, it's been great. I think there's so much more we could talk about on this subject. So thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you.
I will just tell everybody that you can go to spiritfireretreatcenter.com, and you can find out a little bit more about the retreats coming up, and Jamie's will be listed there. You can go to spiritfireradio.com to listen to some past shows. You can go to spiritfire.com and join us for meditation. There's so many ways. So thank you all for joining us, Tim. It's been great. Jamie, it's been great. Love you all. And
we'll see you next week on Spirit Fire Radio.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Fire Radio. Tune in each Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, 12 noon Eastern, for your weekly guide to meditation and living with awareness. Join hosts Tim Darter and Steve Kramer and discover the ways that consciousness is being cultivated in everyday life. Connect to your day in a whole new way and find the amazing moments in life's routines that often pass us by. Add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. To learn more about Spirit Fire, visit spiritfireradio.com.